Okay, so hello, Brett here, and welcome back. In this video, Juke is sharing some of the comments on his apologetics video, and where we're talking about some of the teleological and anthropic constants. And Juke, can you scroll back down to the ones where
Yeah,
we're saying yep, yep, yep?
yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, right there.
okay, so firstly, I will say online versus offline. People online don't have any accountability for what they say. So they're going to be super rude and very confrontational.
Right.
You do not want to take that into real life. So I'll say that firstly. When you're talking to people in real life, it should just be a normal conversation. It should be comfortable. We don't need to debate with people or like directly just whack them in the head with facts like you might see in a description here on the bottom of this. Now, and you're still sharing your screen, Juke? Is that, yeah, here it is. Okay.
Yeah, you're seeing that, right?
Yep, exactly. And now beyond that, I would say this as well. One thing that does map onto reality is people who have basically the depth of no, it doesn't, yep, 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 nuh-uh. And that is really about the depth of most conversations you're going to have with an atheist, because most people aren't studying in depth what Richard Dawkins and even Richard Dawkins' arguments really fall flat in a lot of areas, which we've discussed throughout this course. But um, you know, what's this one say? There are no gods.
This is just what we talked about. Not in this universe or any of the infinite universe. Everything
There you
just
go.
appears as finely tuned because we're here. That's
Right.
their
Nothing
answer.
appears because we're here. That is not a sufficient cause for the appearing. It appears because something came before. Also, he's presupposed in infinite universes. Where do you get that? And he's making absolute claims to no gods. How do you, where's the evidence? There's no evidence. But these are the types of statements, yep, yep. And like what you just pointed out, the level of intellectual sophistication is really not there. And when you just have a polite conversation off of the internet. I don't really get into the internet debates because they never go anywhere, in my opinion. But when you're talking with someone face to face and you're just asking them, oh, that's so interesting. What brought you to that? How did you come to that conclusion? And basically, the answer is like, well, I don't know. I was in college and one of my professors kind of said it one time and it just made a lot of sense. And then you just start asking some further questions and there's nothing there. It's basically like,
Yeah.
well, what's this guy say? He says, well, everything just appears because we're here. And you just ask a question. It's like, well, let me ask you a question. If things appeared, we'll call it the Big Bang, and then we're here, call it what, 12 billion years later, how does us being here make the universe appear 12 billion years ago? That's clearly a false like belief, whatever you want to call it,
Mm.
not a self-supporting statement. You just ask some really simple questions, and what they thought they knew about a lot of this stuff turns out it's just hoopla. There's no depth, and you can ask
Yeah.
questions that are clearly not answerable based on their own statements. Go ahead, Juke.
Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, well, first of all, I'm on YouTube, so you do want to reply to those because that kind of keeps the
Of
algorithm
course,
going, keeps the
of course.
conversation moving. But furthermore, that's more of a strategic move. But furthermore,
Yeah.
I just want to, I don't have to respond to all of them, but like you'll see right here, like this guy just kind of slams me. Yeah, let me see. I actually laughed out loud at some spots on the video. Get me? Ha ha. And I just said, "Hey, I'm glad we're keeping you entertained." Like for me, that's just kind of a funny, that gives me a little have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
But the other thing, anytime you're debating, it's never about convincing the other person.
Right.
Well, when I say this, I mean even in a large setting, it's about the other people that are reading.
This is
So you're
Dr.
not
Craig said this, right?
yeah, you're not going to convince the other person, most likely. He's not going to convince you. But there are people who are kind of on the wall or on the fence, excuse me. They maybe think there is no evidence. They grew up in a church where there wasn't any evidence for God, and so you might present something that they were like, "Wow, I never really, I didn't even know this was, any evidence for Christianity." And other times I just ask a simple question like this one I'm highlighting. He says this is just another example of wishful thinking. Well,
Mhm.
I asked the question, well, what is a better explanation for over 200 anthropic constants that we see in our universe? Is it chance? And let them commit to that answer.
Love it.
Let them answer that.
That's great. Yeah. And I think to your point, and also, Juke, what's the name of your channel in case somebody's watching this and they want to get into some of that? I also agree with that top comment with that guy. Scroll back down to that first comment
Oh,
that said
sorry.
the channel is, what did it say? It says, wow,
Criminally underrated.
criminally underrated. I really think so. I think you have a lot of room to scale. I mean, you know, for anybody watching this is not maybe familiar with Juke yet, you know, he's read over 200 books on Christian apologetics. And so, you know, we've been having fun and talking about this for years. And the content you have super high quality. And I think that's correct. Your channel has a lot of room to grow. What was the name of your channel? So anybody looking can find that.
Yeah, it's Welcome to Truth. Welcome to Truth right here.
Cool.
Welcome to
And that's
Truth.
growing and that's awesome.
And
So
there's one more at the bottom, and this is like you said, it's just encouraging that the newest videos that we're putting out, people are really digging. Like this guy also said, very well done video.
yeah.
Unfortunately, then he goes on to disagree, but the fact that people are leading with
Yeah,
saying, "Hey, the video content, the quality is really high,"
that's
is
great.
awesome. Is
We have
awesome.
Welcome to Truth Apologetics. Even the dissenter to your video said it was a great video. So that is very positive.
Amen.
Cool. All right, good deal. We'll go ahead and we'll pause this video. That is a couple thoughts in regard to debating online. If you're talking online, yeah, you're not trying to convince the commenter. You're trying to convince the people reading the comments 100%. That's true debating on stage formally. In real life, it's going to be a little bit different. You're not going to be directly opposing, and it's going to be, you know, a little bit different. So strategically, you're going to take those differently. And also, um, what was the other brief overview there? The depth of understanding obviously carries both online and offline because the same people understand the same depth of stuff. And most people are not going to be able to really cut into the depth of like the teleological argument, the cosmological, the moral. So when you come packing all these tools, most of the time, they're not going to be able to really, what do you want to say, wager resistance against a lot of these arguments, and a lot of them obviously are just really logical. So just wanted to
And
point
of
those out.
course, the best thing you can do is what you always talk about with the tactics. It's just ask the question, "Oh, where did you hear that?" So
Yep.
instead of you having to always answer, you just disarm them by asking them a simple question. "Where did you hear that? How did you come to that conclusion?"
And that's
Yeah,
Tactics
exactly.
Here by Greg Kukul. Great book. Just asking some questions, pretending, and this is kind of what I do in most of the conversations I have. This is more communication at this point, but it's, you don't have to be the person that knows everything. You want to pull, how do you do this? Like a doctor or a surgeon. You don't go and just whip out a sword and start chopping up your patient. You ask a gajillion questions, you do a bunch of tests, you run a bunch of scans, and you figure out exactly what the problem is, and you get a scalpel and you go cut out that one thing. It's a surgeon's approach. And so with tactics, it's, you can just be Dumbo Columbo in here. He talks about a guy named Columbo who's a super smart detective, but he's always just kind of bumbling around, puts on this persona of kind of a dummy. And he's just asking, well, I don't understand. What about this? What about this? What about this? And then at the end, he's kind of, you know, and this isn't, maybe we don't want to be the, with the intention of this, but he springs the trap and he gets the person who's committing the crime or whatever. And and that's really the intent. And when I talk to people, it's very much at the end, it's like, well, help me understand. And then I take one thing they said and another thing they said, and I just said, how can those two things be true at the same time? And of course they can't be true at the same time. And that's where you get that scalpel and you just kind of pull out the one thing that doesn't make any sense. And that's kind of where we get that rock of truth in the shoe. So anyway, I'll open that up if anybody else has anything else. Were you going to say anything, Juke?
No, I was gonna grab my tactics book and show the
I
new
got you.
anniversary.
Yeah.
There's a 10-year anniversary version. So if
Ooh,
you're thinking of getting the book, I would get the most updated one, which came out a couple years ago, 10
cool.
10-year anniversary version.
Good deal. Zach, anything? All right, we'll call it there. See you in the next video. God bless.